Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Sahwa FM welcomes you to their first episode. I'm Muhammad Al-Hinai. Today's discussion will be all about sustainability in Al-Sahwa. Sustainability has been a long overlooked and has been misinterpreted for what it is in effect. Our goals for this episode are to connect these views on sustainability within our Al-Sahwa community and to bring a new meaning to the word sustainability in Al-Sahwa. As this is our first official episode, we thought it would be remarkable to feature a guest speaker. And what other guest speaker than one of the school's most respected teachers? Mr. Marlon Mackenzie, welcome.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thanks for having me.
So we'd like to introduce everyone to the team. Starting with myself, I'm Muhammad Al-Hinai.
Tariq Al-Bali.
I'm Sahwa Al-Bali.
Before we begin any problem in life, we always look at definition. What are we facing?
Sure.
When we're always up against something, we look what we're facing against and we try to build something from that and how we can penetrate that problem and reach to a solution. So we look at the original and most trusted definition, which is made by the United Nations official definition of sustainability. We would find that it is defined as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So first off, Mr. Marlon, I would like your opinion on this definition of sustainability made by the United Nations, and how do you see that? How do you see that resembling in Sahwa Schools?
Thank you, Mohammed, for your question. First thing, as adults and as you grow older, you'll realize that what people prize the most are their children and their lifeline and their heritage. And so it is important that whatever we do now, we must ensure that we protect and preserve the environment for our children's children. Now, as it relates to Sahwa Schools, we have in the past few years made a few strides. So for example, we are now a Chromebook school. As you have known, Mohammed, for a long time now we have moved, and we need trees to create paper, to create books,
yes.
and stuff. Sometimes you realize, yes, we still need the books, but where possible, it's also important for us to ensure that we use systems or put systems in place that we can eliminate where necessary. We looked at a few years ago as well where we removed the cups from the water dispensers and asked students to bring their bottles in. We also looked at the time as well. I remember even when we had staff functions, we used to have drinks in plastic bottles, and we are always having paper cups, and so we have tried to reduce that as well. Those are some examples that we use. When you look at the cafeteria, you'll notice that you don't have plastic spoons and forks anymore. You have a silver. We do have plastic plates, but at the moment you could understand what would happen if we were to have ceramic plates. So we do have some amount of plastic still, but it's a work in progress.
Not to the same extent.
And it's reusable, and we try to ensure that we reuse as best as possible.
So
we are doing, as small as it is. We are doing something, Mohammed, to ensure that we contribute to our part.
Yes. So in Sahwa, obviously we've changed to, obviously we've reached 30 years anniversary of Sahwa. Yes. Congratulations to all the administration, staff members and students and alumni as well. But since we're also progressing, we would also like to see growth within the Sahwa community. And growth is also often misunderstood and overlooked. We need to make sure that growth is what takes us to the better and not the worse.
Yes.
So in terms of sustainability, we would like to align our actions and behaviors towards what would bring us to Oman 2040 vision of sustainability. And speaking of behaviors and actions and these little things that you talked about, like the paper cups and whatnot, how would you see this in the classroom within the learning environment instead of on the building, in the campus in general, but particularly in that classroom? How would you see this, Mr. Marlon, being implemented?
Well, one of the things that, as I said, it's important that we ensure that all students, everyone, teachers, students, the custodians, directors, parents, everybody play a role in ensuring that they are contributing to the sustainable development.
Yes.
So when you look at the classroom attitude, you will find we're not quite where we could be, but is it a start? Yes. It's a start where we should reach now where, okay, it's the cooler months, we can turn off the AC. It's a cooler months, we can, or when it gets to the bright months where you can do without the lights, indoor lights, you can lift the blinds and open the room and so on. So those behaviors are slowly, but of course, for behaviors to be learned, it has to be repeated. And so one of the things we're still looking at is how to ensure that we remind students every day. But we can see as well, even as it relates to the plastic bottles and stuff, you do see students coming in with the metallic bottles for their water. So you can see that it is coming. Slowly changing, yes.
Another big advantage is that we have like sustainability clubs and also eco clubs. Like I have been joining these clubs since I was from a young age, and this year, me and a couple of students in my homeroom, we created this sustainability club, providing the supervision of Mr. Ona and Miss Mia. Yeah, and one of the projects I'm working on is we're trying to offset the amount of CO2 we produce while going on trips. Yeah, so it says that 46 trees offset 1 ton of CO2. So yeah, that's the project I'm working on, and it's a work in progress. So I wanted to know your thoughts on this project.
That it's always wonderful, when we have students participating. One of the things I would love for us, and when we talk about sustainability, we should also look at is what we're doing sustainable as well. Yeah. So when we talk about planting trees, we also have to ensure that we plant the trees somewhere where it will grow. As Mohammed said earlier, we need to ensure that we're not just doing something for the sake of it, but also, so I'm looking as well as to how as students we can ensure maybe at some point down the road, so maybe we can say go back to just before COVID, we had each class had a tree that they had to care for the year. True. And it so happened that COVID came in that very same year, so we forgot about those trees. True. But we almost had, every classroom had that pet tree that they had to water daily. And the aim of that was that over a period of time, we would have planted those trees. I would look forward to seeing something like that happening again. If you look around the school does try to make sure that we create a green space as best as possible. You will see the open lot.
Yeah. I would like to mention that us as design students, we are working on a project. We're creating compost bins and recycling bins for the entire school, for the KG section and the MIP section. And that would really help the school as a whole. And I would just like to know if you have any ideas for the school, for any more of these events, or if you could share something, and how they could help.
I'm sure, as I work with students, because I also believe that sometimes I have an idea and I'm thinking that this suggestion is the best thing, but the students would see differently because they are having the lived reality of going class by class to the bathroom, to the water fountain, to the cafeteria. Yes, I pass around, but I don't have that lived experience as you sitting there in the classroom. But I'm sure, even when I spoke, when we were doing student council elections, I heard lots of speeches being made about, sustainability and looking at how we can ensure that our plant or school campus is more friendly as it relates to the environment. So, over time, I'm hoping right now, off the top of my head, to say to you, okay, this is an idea I would work with. It's quite difficult.
Yes, it is.
Because I remember last week I was having a conversation with a group of students to ask whose responsibility it is to for example, separate waste. And it was a beautiful conversation where we said, we should put it there, but then we said, then who separates the waste? So
Yeah.
also we need to get to the point where we start looking at, so maybe as a school, if we start getting the bins out again along the corridor ways where students can actually, and we do the education campaign, because also, and you would have seen it if you traveled around the world and some other places as well, you would have seen where something is made for paper and you see plastic inside.
That is especially important for younger children.
So
As
that's
the-
something that
It's
we
more of
do.
a psychological area if
Yeah.
you think about it, because who's gonna do that? Who's not gonna do that? Who's gonna separate the
Yeah, exactly.
materials by?
Yes.
And that
Components.
knowledge will stick with them for the rest of their life.
Yeah, it
and
becomes a
transfer
principle.
Yes.
It becomes
to
a
children.
discipline.
And it's learning by doing as well. I think if we have, and Saud is mentioning his Eco Club, if we start having where it's at first, you said growth, Mohammed, and when something starts, so maybe if the Eco Club starts doing something, it at the first few months, it's going to be difficult. But as you get into the habit of it, then of course others will join. And I
Yeah,
think it will
before
grow.
COVID it was a big deal. Many people joined in, but now that COVID hit us, it's kind of going, but it's a
Slower
small
rate.
group. It's a small group, but we're.
But,
it's a big
and of course, if
Yeah.
you need any assistance from leadership perspective, so please just drop us an email, and we're happy to support. We always try to support student initiatives as best as
Thank you.
possible.
I guess that sums up our discussion for today. We've talked about so far defining sustainability in Al-Sahwa, how we can implement sustainability in Al-Sahwa, current activities working towards sustainability in Al-Sahwa, as my colleague here, Saud and Tariq, have mentioned our remarkable design students.
Thank you very much.
No worries. And also we've talked about Mr. Marlon about the different methods of sustainability in Al-Sahwa.
Sure.
Obviously we talked about the paper cups, big transition actually throughout the last decade from paper cups to metal and plastic bottles, and we've also become a fully almost Google supported, Acer supported school. As part of our IB curriculum, as recognizing ourselves as an IB school, I think these are very important attributes to practice as staffs and academics and teachers and also students. These attributes will stick to us, and these skills will stick to us for the rest of our lives, and will also help us build a more sustainable future. Highlight on the word sustainable, because it's also being invested in the future.
Yes.
So thank you very much, my dear colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Marlon, for
Thank you.
holding
Thank
this
you.
session with us.
Thank you.
No worries. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having
Thank you very
you.
much.